Tabernacles. Right. Let me know when you're ready.
We already good.
All right. Let's go to the book of Nehemiah, chapter 8 and verse 14. Right? Nehemiah chapter 8 and verse 14.
The book of Nehemiah, chapter 8 and verse number 14. And they found written in the law, which the Lord had commanded by Moses, that the children of Israel should dwell in booths.
Should do what?
Should dwell in booths.
Right?
And the feast of the 7th month.
Right, brothers know that's the Feast of Tabernacles. Another name for the Feast of Tabernacles is a booth. A tabernacle, a booth, same thing. It's a tent. Right? Let's get that in the law of Moses. Let's go to the book of Leviticus, chapter 23. Right? You can read 39. Right? Leviticus 23 and 39.
Leviticus, chapter 23 and verse number 39. Also in the 15th day of the 7th month.
Right, the 15th day of the 7th month. Tomorrow night at sundown, or tonight at sundown, it's the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles. Right? Go on.
When ye have gathered in the fruit of the land, ye shall keep a feast unto the Lord 7 days.
Right?
On the first day shall be a Sabbath, and on the 8th day shall be a Sabbath.
So tonight at sundown is a Sabbath. Right, go on.
And ye shall take you on the first day the boughs of goodly trees, branches of the palm, and the boughs of thick trees, and willows of the brook.
Right, now imagine we have to actually do that. Right? Actually take the trees down, cut down branches, and make your tent like that, man. Others be out here all day trying to figure out what's going on, man. Right. That's a lot tougher back then. Can't just go to Amazon and Walmart and get you a pre-made tent, man. Insta-ready tent. Right? You can go on.
And ye shall rejoice before the Lord your God 7 days.
Right?
And ye shall keep it a feast unto the Lord 7 days in the year. And it shall be a statute forever in your generation.
How long?
Forever in your generation.
So you'll even see when you read the book of Zechariah, the book of Ezekiel, you'll see that the Feast of Tabernacles is mentioned even in the kingdom of heaven. Right? So it's not a one-time deal. Go on.
Ye shall celebrate it in the 7th month. Ye shall dwell in booths 7 days.
So brothers should have been in booths for 7 days, man. Rather you had it in your house, so you was out in your backyard or out in the wilderness or where we at right now in the wilderness. It's all part of keeping that ordinance, right? Go on.
All that are Israelite born,
so if you're an Israelite, regardless of your tribe,
shall dwell in booths.
Shall do what?
Shall dwell in booths.
Shall dwell in booths. Go on.
That your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh, your God.
See that? So brothers read Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, how we dwelt in the wilderness for how long? 40 years. Right? And the Most High had us in booths 40 years. And when you keep it, it's a sign of humility and a sign of humbleness as a reminder of your fathers dwelling in the booth out there in the wilderness, man. And you can see all of the hell that broke loose in the wilderness. Read about Korah, Dathan, Abiram, Miriam and Aaron speaking against Moses. All types of judgments that the Most High put on the earth. So the Feast of Tabernacles is not just being in your tent, man. You know, and I've seen some people, they bring a flat screen TV, right? They bring the PlayStation. You know, they make it as if it's their living room, man. It's not just what's what I'm looking for? An experience, man. A getaway. Right. Like a vacation. On your mind should be what happened in the wilderness, man. As you keep the Feast of Tabernacles. It's about the mirth and it's about the festivity and the enjoying the brotherhood, right? And the sisters, they enjoy the sisterhood, but it's also a memorial. A lot of our feast days are memorials of what the Most High did for our fathers in the ancient times. Khan? Right, go on.
And Moses declared unto the children of Israel the feast of the Lord.
Right, so let's go back to Nehemiah chapter 8. Right, Nehemiah chapter 8 and verse, read 14 one more time.
Nehemiah chapter 8 and verse number 14. And they found written in the law, which the Lord had commanded by Moses, that the children of Israel should dwell in booths in the feast of the 7th month.
So they found written in the law because this is our people coming out of what? Captivity.
Right.
So Nehemiah set up by the Most High, along with Zerubbabel, Joshua, Ezra, and other men to be able to reform the nation and put them back in their proper estate. So they weren't keeping these feast days like that, huh? Right? They weren't going into the law like that. So they had to come back to Jerusalem and teach these men how to keep the feast days. So they found it in the law. They said, hold on, we got to keep this, man. Right, go on.
Verse 15. And that they should publish and proclaim it in all their cities and in Jerusalem, saying, go forth unto the mount and fetch olive branches and pine branches and myrtle branches and palm branches and branches of thick trees to make booths, as it is written.
As it is written, huh? Go on.
So the people went forth and brought them and made themselves booths, every one upon the roof of his house,
Right?
and in their courts, and in the courts of the house of God, and in the street of the water gate, and in the street of the gate of Ephraim.
Right, so they're keeping it in Jerusalem due to the situation that they're in. Right? What's happening to our people during this time? And what? Right, they're rebuilding the wall. What else is happening?
The heathen basically often and try to be a part of it, interrupt them.
Right, they're trying to kill them. Right, trying to destroy them. The heathen, you read about Tobias, Sanballat, other men, they're trying to kill us. So if we all go out into the wilderness, they'll overthrow the city, man. Right, so in its proper context, they have to keep it in Jerusalem at that time due to the situation that they're in. Right, and not just in Jerusalem, they have to keep it in the courts and the roofs of the house and various things of that nature. And the process of time that turned into them going to the temple, you read about that in John the 7th chapter, and them all coming down to Jerusalem, which is the law, to keep it according to the rights, right thereof. So go on.
Verse 17.
And it had to be packed, man. You got people that's the sand of the sea, all dwelling in Jerusalem in their tents, man. Go on.
And all the congregation of them that were come again out of the captivity made booths and sat under the booths. For since the days of Jeshua,
From the time of Jeshua or Joshua, from all the way from the time of Joshua, right? Go on.
the son of Nun, unto that day,
Until that day, so that bypasses what? Saul, David, Solomon, Hezekiah, all of these men from Joshua, right? Go on to that day.
had not the children of Israel done so.
You see that? Going off, man. Nobody was keeping the Feast of Tabernacles in its perfection until Nehemiah and Ezra and these other men were set up by the Most High to allow the nation to keep it the right way. You ask, so what was Saul doing, man? You know, what were some of our kings doing? Well, it shows you one thing they weren't doing, man. They weren't keeping the Feast of Tabernacles in its perfection. Right? Go on.
And there was very great gladness.
And that's not the first time a situation like that happened. What's another high holy day that had to be kept in its perfection when the king came on the scene? Passover. With who? Who's the king? Josiah. Right? You can read that in 2 Kings. Right? When Josiah came on the scene, they found the law and said, hold on, we got to keep the Passover the right way, man. And he's the one that keep the Passover greater than any other king. So these things happen. We fall away, and the men of the Lord, they go back into the law and start rebuilding the nation. Right, go on.
Verse 18. Also, day by
Now
day.
this is important. Read 18 again.
Also, day by day.
Now every now and then.
Also, day by day.
Day by day,
From the first day until the last day.
from the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles until the last day, which starts tonight at sundown,
He read in the book of the law of God.
he did what?
He read in the book of the law of God.
And what?
And they kept the feast 7 days. And on the 8th day was a solemn assembly, according unto the manner.
You see that? So day by day, brother should have been in the word, man. Like Ariah said, it's not a getaway, man. Where you just put your hammock up and connect it to two trees, man. Right? And just sit there and bask in the sun. Like a creek. Right? Day by day, brother should be in the law, man. Right? If you were, you could have went through the whole book of Leviticus, man. During the Feast of Tabernacles. You could have went or the whole book of Numbers. Or push yourself to read the whole book of Deuteronomy, man. Or whatever book you wanted to read, man. Day by day, you should be in the law. So we're going to keep it according to the ordinances, and we're going right into the law. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 31. Right? Deuteronomy chapter 31. And you can start at verse 9.
Deuteronomy chapter 31 and verse number 9. And Moses wrote this law.
So you can read about the Feast of Tabernacles in Leviticus 23, Numbers 29, Deuteronomy 16, and Deuteronomy 31 in the law, right? And Exodus 23 and Exodus 24. You can read about the Feast of Tabernacles in those respective chapters, right? So you can read on King.
And Moses wrote this law and delivered it unto the priest, the son of Levi, which bare the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and unto all the elders of Israel. And Moses commanded them, saying, at the end of every 7 years, in the solemnity of the year of release, in the Feast of Tabernacles.
In the what?
In the Feast of Tabernacles.
Right?
When all Israel is come to appear before the Lord thy God, in the place which he shall choose, thou shalt read this law before all Israel in their hearing.
So, during the year of release, which is the year of releasing Hebrew workers, right, and servants that worked for you. It's not like the so-called white man where you got to work your whole life, man, until you're 65 and you can never leave. I always tell this story at my one of the so-called jobs I worked at. This guy, he was working for over like 35, 40 years there, man. His name was Felix. I used to ask Felix, when are you going to retire? He said, they won't let me retire. I said, what do you mean they won't let me retire? So they didn't even let this guy leave the building, right? They would lock up the gate, and he would be there from sun up to sun up the next day, chopping wood. He wasn't allowed to leave, man. Now he could bring his car. I think they let him leave on the weekend, but Monday through Friday he was in there, man. And they did not let him retire, right? And I want to, I kind of said something. Y'all not gonna let this guy retire? He told me, look, don't say nothing, right? So read that one more time, King. Read verse 10.
Verse 10. And Moses commanded them, saying, at the end of every 7 years, in the solemnity of the year of release, in the Feast of Tabernacles.
Right, the year of release in the Feast of Tabernacles. You got it.
And this is that. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 15, and verse number 12. And if thy brother, an Hebrew man, or an Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee, and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year thou shalt let him go free from thee. And when thou sendest him out free from thee, thou shalt not let him go away empty. Thou shalt furnish him liberty out of thy flock, and out of thy floor, and out of thy winepress, of that wherewith the Lord thy God hath blessed thee, that thou shalt give unto him.
God, and the year of release, that's referring to, your people or possessions that you may have, but also during that time you got land Sabbaths as well. Right, let's go to Leviticus 25, you start at verse 1.
Leviticus chapter 25 and verse number 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses in Mount Sinai, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto the Lord.
Right, because the land needs rest. The land is yielding up fruit. Right, the land is sustaining for all the people who may live upon it. Right, you got to give your land time to rest, to give you a more plentiful harvest the next year. Right, let the animals come, use the waste, right, eat of the fruit that is growing there, but you can't glean, you can't reap, you can't do anything of that nature. That goes along with the 7 years as well, right? And the time of the end harvest is usually this time right here, the so-called fall time or autumn, right? You can read down a little bit more.
Verse 3, 6 years thou shalt sow thy field, and 6 years thou shalt prune thy vineyards, and gather in the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year there shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land.
So lucky, and that goes twofold with the servants that you may have, or the possessions that you may have. You've been reaping the harvest or the benefits of that person being there. Now it's time to exact it to the person who has been doing it. Give them that time of rest. Give them that time of separation, right?
A Sabbath for the Lord. Thou shalt neither sow thy field, nor prune thy vineyard. That which groweth of its own accord of thy harvest thou shalt not reap. neither gather the grapes of the vine undressed, for it is a year of rest unto the land.
Yeah, and Esau don't keep that, man. When that's the so-called white man on the State of the State of the Union, where Biden, Obama, Trump, they get on there and say, all right, America, this year is the year of release, man. Right? We're going to let all workers go free. And we're going to fully furnish you, man. Like the brother read. That means they're going to pay you. Right? You're off this year, and this 7th year you're not working, we're going to give you your annual salary and your wages.
Take care of you.
And take care of you, man. Right? Esau's not doing that, man.
Right.
The most you get is a maternity leave. And it's captivity, man.
2 weeks.
And they press you out during your maternity leave. Are you coming back?
Right.
Right? Let me see a picture of the baby. Oh, that don't really look like, oh, that's your baby. And they damn pressing you out, man. During your maternity leave, man.
You got to file with FMLA. They
Yep.
got to send it to the state.
Yep.
They can approve it. They can deny it.
Right.
They can take the payback that you get from it.
And Esau don't give you paternity leave, man. Maternity, but not the fathers, man. And the fathers are really the heads of the households, man. So this society is completely off. Right? Let's go to another precept, Exodus 21 and 2. Right? The so-called white man is not keeping a year of release, man. Exodus 21 and 2. And that's when that's a perfect opportunity for all of our people to come together because nobody's working, man. No men are in bondage, should I say. So let's bring that Exodus chapter 21.
Exodus chapter 21 and verse number 2. If thou buy
Start at 1. Select.
verse number 1. Now these are the judgments which thou shalt set before them. And if thou buy an Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing.
Yeah, that's essentially indentured servitude. It's not speaking about what you saw in Django or Roots or what the so-called white man did to us, man. Right? It's essentially if if a brother may have a barbershop, hey, look, you found you on hard times, you come and sweep the floor. You sweep up the hair, wipe the mirrors down, right? You need some money. A brother, you don't have to go to the other nations, man. You go to your fellow brother, and you work for him for 6 years. You can really work for him for a day. That's called a hireling, or 3 years. But you can have a complete time in Deuteronomy 15, which is those 6 years, and a 7th year you can go free. So you can be a hireling for a limited time, or you could be an actual servant for those 6 years. Right? So you can read on, King.
Verse 3.
And hold on. Didn't Esau buy us? When did Esau let us go free the 7th year, man? Right? Go on.
Verse 3. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife shall go out with him.
Hey, the brother might have brought his woman, man. You know? They might be working together. Go on.
If his master have given him a wife, and she have borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out by himself.
Yeah, that's similar to Genesis, the 31st chapter. You read about Laban. Remember Jacob did what? He stole away. And Laban said, hold on, these daughters are mine. Right? I gave you these daughters. Because that's really according to the law.
Right.
So that's why Laban had, the Most High told Laban, let's get that real quick in Genesis 31. He told him, don't speak to Jacob neither good nor bad in that account. Right? Genesis chapter 31 and verse, you can start at 26.
Genesis chapter 31 and verse number 26. And Laban said to Jacob, what hast thou done, that thou hast stolen away unawares to me, and carried away my daughters as captives, taken with the sword?
Right?
Wherefore didst thou flee away secretly, and steal away from me, and didst not tell me, that I might have sent thee away with mirth, and with songs, with timbrel, and with harp?
And who knows if he was going to do that?
Right.
Right? You know how Jake is, man. Right? We know the situation he was in. Right? Go on.
And hast not suffered me to kiss my sons and my daughters? Thou hast now done foolishly in so doing.
Right now, Laban, he was oppressing Jacob.
Right.
For years and years, man.
Right.
Now he want to, what they call play the 50, man. Right? Or act like he don't know the situation.
Right.
Right? Go on.
Brand new.
Yeah, act brand new, man. Go on.
It is in the power of
Jake
my...
right here. See, damn uncle, man. That's how your uncle would do you, man. That's your uncle. Every brother has a snake uncle, man. Or a wicked uncle. Right, go on. For the most part.
It is in the power of my hand to do you hurt. But the God of your father spake unto me yesternight, saying, take thou heed that thou shouldst speak not to Jacob either good or bad.
Right, because technically the law says this remains with the master, right, until otherwise. That's why Laban pursued Jacob. And he says, the power's in my hand to do you hurt, man. Right? And that's going back to the law we read in Exodus chapter 21. So that's that year of release that is speaking about in Deuteronomy chapter 31. Right? And spiritually, you'll have a year of release once what? We're delivered from this land, huh? And delivered from this captivity and delivered from this oppression. That'll be a spiritual year of release during the 7th year, which is completion. Right? Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 16.
That's Jeremiah 34. I believe Jeremiah 34:12. Jeremiah 34:12. Right? That's a similitude from when we came out of Egypt. Right? The Lord set us free so that we can be his handmaids and his bondmen. Right? Not to be under the Egyptians anymore. Right?
Jeremiah chapter 34 and verse number 12. Therefore the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, I made a covenant with your fathers in the day that I brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondmen, saying, at the end of 7 years, let ye go every man his brother in Hebrew, which have been sold unto thee. And when he have served thee 6 years, thou shalt let him go free from thee.
Right? So this is, more into it. But this is the Most High rebuking and chastising Israel for not letting go of the bondman or your brother who was working for you, man. Because Israel would do that. That's like Laban, holding Jacob. Israel would be like, yo, I know you're supposed to go. Yo, can you give me 1 more year? That 1 more year turned to 3 more years. And now you're walking around with a hole in your ear and you his possession forever. Right?
Let me get this quick precept. Alright. You can give me the book of Job, Bible 7 verse 1. Like the brother just touched on earlier, you got hirelings, right? Let's get the book of Job, chapter 7 and verse 1.
Job chapter 7 and verse number 1. Is there not an appointed time to man upon earth? Are not his days also like the days of an hireling? As a servant earnestly desireth the shadow, and as an hireling looking for the reward of his work.
Right, so he may look for the reward of his work, whether that be a day, whether that be a week, whether that be a year. You got people that work for you, they working, and then they'll get their reward. You understand? So you got hirelings, and then you got servants. Let me get that in Judges chapter 17 and verse 9. Judges chapter 17 and verse 9. So you may hire somebody, and they may work with you.
Judges chapter 17 and verse number 9.
And quick point, Esau will look at you like you homeless. If you don't got no money, and you say, well, can I work for you? They say, well, get out of here. Right. Your breath stink. You don't got no suit on. But your brother, according to the law, he's supposed to help you and build you up while you poor. Right. Bring it up.
And Micah said unto him, whence comest thou? And he said unto him, I am a Levite of Bethlehem, Judah, and I go to sojourn where I may find a place.
So if somebody said that to the so-called white man, he would call him a bum. He just sitting around sojourning. Get out of my property, man. You don't see this sign right here? Let's see what your brother does and what the enemy would have done. So this man essentially, when you paint the picture, he's sojourning trying to find a place. You know?
And Micah said unto him, dwell with me, and be unto me a father and a priest.
So your brother look out for you according to the law.
And I will give thee 10 shekels of silver by the year, and suit up, and a suit of apparel.
And a what?
And a suit of apparel.
And the suit of apparel. So now he's getting this man built up. He says, I will be unto thee, Salakia, give thee 10 shekels of silver by the year and a suit of apparel. So not only is he giving this man money, but he's also giving him what? He's giving him suits. Read on.
And thy victual.
And he will give him something to eat. Read on.
So the Levite went in. And the Levite was content to dwell with the man. And the young man was unto him as one of his sons.
Right, so you may have somebody that you will hire, and then you can help build up that man while he's sojourning or trying to find a place, you understand, to set the soles of his feet. So that goes to show you what your brother would do and what Esau would do.
And you see that a lot with chiefly Northern Kingdom, right? They'll be out in front of a Home Depot or a Lowe's,
Right.
and that'll be a hireling. You might say, hey, look, I need you to kind of, can you lay some tile, right? And you kind of make up a negotiation. Hey, look, I'll give you, $10 an hour, right? And they all hop in the back of the truck. They knock that tile out, and you got to pay them, huh? Right? Real quick precept to add to what Amos was saying. Nehemiah 5 and 1. Right? Nehemiah 5 and 1. And that's a beautiful system right there, man.
Right.
Like he said, you don't have to go to the other nations. You don't have to be poor. And even if you was poor, the Lord still have food for you, man. Because you're commanded to help the poor. And at the end of every 3 years, you had the tithes of the poor, where they can come and eat of the food. So everything was taken care of, man. So bring that up. So lucky.
And even after the end of the workday, you're supposed to be paid the wages that you would work for that day.
That's right.
So Esau always committing sins against the Most High, man. We should be getting paid every day for the work we do.
That's right. Come on, every 2 weeks. Then you 3 weeks in the hole. Bring that up.
Nehemiah chapter 5 and verse number 1. And there was a great cry of the people and of their wives against their brethren, the Jews. For there were that said, we, our sons and our daughters, are many. Therefore, we take up corn for them, that we may eat and live.
Yeah, they're saying we're working for our brothers, right? We're working in the fields that we may eat and live. We don't have nowhere else to go. Go on.
Some also there were that said, we have mortgaged our lands, vineyards, and houses, that we might buy corn because of the dirt.
They had to mortgage their lands, man. That's off to your own brother, right? Where is that at, man?
Right.
So go on.
Verse 4. There were also that said,
Here's the point.
we have borrowed money for the king's tribute, and that upon our lands and vineyards.
Right, so the money, the taxes that was forced to pay to the king, they were keeping it for themselves, man, because they were so low and down due to the oppression of their own people. Read on.
Yet now our flesh is as the flesh of our brethren, our children as their children. And lo, we bring into bondage.
We do what?
We bring into bondage our sons and our daughters to be servants. And some of our daughters are brought unto bondage already. Neither is it in our power to redeem them, for other men have our lands and vineyards.
So there was no year release going on during the time of Nehemiah. They were enslaving their people, man. Nah, you ain't going nowhere, man. Right? 8th year, they waiting on the 6th year, they working. Oh, boy, this is it, man. Right? They chop down their final tree, they tell their wife, we're going to be all right. Right? According to the law, he's going to take care of us. And that 7th year come, ain't nothing happening, man. Then the 8th year come. Then the 9th year come. Then your brother's just out there enslaving you. Like, no, you're not getting paid. They were doing that during the time of Nehemiah, man. So that's why when you read Nehemiah 10 and 31, we read that precept a lot. It says, and if the people of the land bring any ware or victuals on the Sabbath day to sell, that we would what? Not buy them on the Sabbath day or the holy day. And it says what? And that we would leave the exaction of every debt in the 7th year, paraphrasing. So Nehemiah came up and said, hold on, y'all are oppressing y'all people, man. On that year release, keep it, according to Deuteronomy 15 and Exodus chapter 21. So that's a part of that verse we really don't touch on, but it ties in until the time where they would go into the Feast of Tabernacles, which is that year of release. Con? All right, let's go. All right, let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16 and 13.
Deuteronomy chapter 16 and verse number 13. Thou shalt observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days. After that thou hast gathered in thy corn and thy wine.
So another part about the Feast of Tabernacles is you have to go out there and not only cut down the boughs of the trees, you got to gather in your corn and wine, man. It's called a harvest. So before the wintertime comes in, you need to store up all of your crops and all of your fruits and all of your wheat and things of that nature that you're bringing in, your grapes, and store it all up, because when the wintertime comes, you're not going to be out there working like that, man. So it's agricultural purposes besides civil purposes when it comes to our feast days, man. All right, so go on.
Verse 14. And thou shalt rejoice in thy feast,
No, be depressed.
and thou shalt rejoice in thy feast,
Think about your bills.
and thou shalt rejoice in thy feast,
Think about work.
and thou shalt rejoice in thy feast. Thou and thy son, and thy daughter, and thy manservant, and thy maidservant, and the Levite, the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow that are within thy gates.
That's plain, right? Let's go to the book of Zechariah chapter 14. And we brought this out earlier, right? The concept of the Feast of Tabernacles is not a one-shot deal in Babylon, right? It's going to be implemented in the kingdom of heaven. Zechariah 14 and 16.
Zechariah chapter 14 and verse number 16. And it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles.
So everyone that's left means what? A lot of people are going to die, man. It wouldn't say everyone that's left if all of the nations could be saved.
Right.
And they're all going to make it. It means the ones that barely made it by the skin of their teeth, man. They're going to have to come to Jerusalem and keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Now they can say, man, to hell with that. I'm dwelling in no tent, man. I'm going to do what I want to do, man. Right? This is the time to do so-and-so, man. So what's going to happen? Go on.
Verse 17. And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain.
What happens if you don't get no rain?
You're gonna die.
Yeah, you die, but, I mean, what happens? A famine, drought, which leads to what?
No food.
No food,
Starvation.
starvation, your animals die,
Slow down.
your crops die, slow death, pestilence, disease, cannibalism. A lot of brothers, no rain. Shoot, I'll just go to the river. No, you read 2 Kings, man. All of the rivers dry up. Only in your land. And you starving to death. And your cattle die. And then you slowly die. So these nations, if you say, look, I don't want to keep the Feast of Tabernacles, you wonder why it hasn't rained in 8 days, man. 9 days. Man, what's going on, man? They're going to start doing damn rain dances. 1 Kings, 18, they start cutting their flesh, man. Calling upon Baal, leaping and howling. Yeah, backflips off the altar, man. You know, howling at the moon. Baal live. They're going to start calling upon other gods to give them rain. Throwing stuff at the clouds. Give me some damn, and it's not going to happen, man. They're going to slowly drop dead. Right? You had a precept?
First Kings 18 and 1.
Book of 1 Kings, chapter 18, and verse number 1. And it came to pass after many days that the word of the Lord came to Elijah in the 3rd year, saying, Go, show thyself unto Ahab, and I will send rain upon the earth. And Elijah went to show himself unto Ahab. And there was a sore famine in Samaria. And Ahab called Obadiah, which was the governor of his house. Now Obadiah feared the Lord greatly. For it was so, when Jezebel cut off the prophets of the Lord, that Obadiah took 100 prophets and hid them by 50 in a cave, and fed them with bread and water.
So it was a famine in the land for what, 3 years? 3 years, no rain, man. Right? That's 3, and you got to think about the crops that were already growing. So those 3 years it didn't rain, that could have expanded to 5 years, really.
Right.
You know, so that's just a precept to show that.
So we can get 2 Kings 8 and 1. We're going to what the brother was bringing out too.
2 Kings chapter 8 and verse number 1. Then spake Elisha unto the woman whose son had restored to life, whose son he had restored to life,
Right.
saying, Arise, and go thou and thine household, and sojourn wheresoever thou canst sojourn. For the Lord hath called for a famine, and it shall also come upon the land 7 years.
7 years. It was a famine, man. And the Lord told the righteous to go sojourn where they could sojourn. So the Lord is going to look out for the righteous and punish and destroy the wicked. Read on.
And the woman arose and did after the saying of the man of God.
And that's spiritual, man. Because when we do what the Most High says, he gives us rain. Meaning understanding, protection, life. You understand food, crops, right? The green grass. He's going to have everything to flourish. Read on.
And she went with her household and sojourned in the land of the Philistines 7 years. And it came to pass at the 7 years end that the woman returned out of the land of the Philistines. And she went forth to cry unto the king for her house and for her land.
Because she's seen the decay, man, after 7 years. What if this place we looking at in 7 years, you wouldn't see no green grass, man? You wouldn't hear no damn birds chirping. You wouldn't see any life in this place. It would look like an utter drought. She had to cry unto the king, you understand, for all of her land, man, when you go into this. But that just goes to show you how detrimental that famine could be to the whole civilization and everything that's going on. That the Most High had to save that woman. Because if anybody was in the land 7 years, they may start eating themselves, man. Right. And making mud pies and trying to survive. You don't know what you would do to survive.
Hey, quick point, and I can't remember the country. It's a country in the land of Ham right now. They make mosquito pies. So you saw that? So they take like pots and buckets and they catch mosquitoes and gnats, and they make a pie. I think they say 500 million mosquitoes in one pie.
Something like that.
Yeah, mosquito pie. And they're eating mosquitoes.
Talking about it tastes like fish.
Yeah, they said it tastes like fish. You gotta catch it when it's good. Let's go to the book of Micah for
Salaki, they don't tell you this, but there's really a famine going on in the earth right now. Right? All the crops are being dried up. They're being destroyed. The processing plants are being destroyed. Right? Esau is forcing the famine because they know the Most High bringing the famine to the land. So what are they trying to do? They trying to play God. They're trying to get the famine started before the Most High can get the famine started. And they don't realize that they're in the hands of the Most High.
You got a point?
If we had processed food, it wouldn't be a lot of food. So, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. The Lord said, "Cursed shall be the ground." For Cain, paraphrasing. Right? It shall not yield forth her fruit. Let's go to Micah 4:1.
Book of Micah, chapter 4 and verse number 1.
And this links directly with Zechariah 14 about all of the nations coming to keep the feast.
But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountain.
So that's going to be what they call the how everybody goes to Mecca in Islam, and you got to go there. I believe once every 3 years or so. Every nation, they're not going to go to Mecca no more. And we see an Ishmaelite sneaking off to Mecca, all hell is going to break loose, man.
Right.
Tiptoeing in the dark to go to Mecca, man. Right? No, they all going to have to come to Jerusalem. Right? So read on.
And it shall be exalted above the hills.
Right?
And people shall flow unto it.
Right?
And many nations shall come and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord and the house of God of Jacob. And the house of the God of Jacob. And he will teach us of his ways. And we will walk in his paths.
Right. The Most High is going to have priests and men of the Lord to be able to teach the other nations, man. The laws, the statutes, and the commandments, man. And they're going to be back in their land, and they better keep these laws, man.
Right.
And if we find out they're not keeping the law, we see the punishment thereof. Go on.
For the law shall go forth of Zion.
What the Lord say?
For the law shall go forth of Zion.
So that cuts you Christians that say the law is done away with. Even in the kingdom, the law is still going to be there.
Right.
In your heaven. Go on.
And the word of the Lord from Jerusalem.
That's plain. Let's go back to Zechariah chapter 14. So the men of the Lord are going to be teaching the other nations the laws and the commandments and how to keep the Feast of Tabernacles, right? And get that tree. No, not that one. That one. And they're going to keep it. Right? And they're going to be bucking up and, hey, we're going to do what we got to do, right? Right? So go back to that. 16. Zechariah 14 and 17. 18.
Zechariah chapter 14 and verse number 18. And if the family of Egypt go not up and come not, that have no rain,
right,
there shall be the plague, wherewith the Lord will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles.
Right.
This shall be the punishment of Egypt, and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles.
That's right. Let's go to the book. We got it.
Isaiah 66 and 24. 66 to 24.
Isaiah chapter 66 and verse number 24. And they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses,
You can start at 23.
verse number 23. And it shall come to pass that from new moon to another, that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath unto another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord.
Right, and we know that the feast days, a good majority of them, they start off as what? Sabbath days, right? Like in John the 7th chapter, when Yahweh Shah said, if any man thirst, come to me, in what's that, 7 and 38? Is it 38? It might be 24. But that was the end of the great feast. It's 38? No.
Book of John, chapter 7 and verse number 38. He that believeth on me, as the scripture hath said, out of his belly.
Go on 2 verses.
Verse number 36. What manner of saying is this that he said? Ye shall seek me, and shall not find me. And where I am, thither ye cannot come. In the last days, that great day of the feast, Yahweh Shai stood and cried, saying, if any man thirst, let him come unto me and drink.
So as we always did, we always went to Jerusalem. Because during John the 7th chapter is during the Feast of Tabernacles. So that was during the time that everybody is supposed to gather. So as we did in the ancient world, we're going to do in the world to come. Right? And so all the nations that don't come and worship before the Lord during the Feast of Tabernacles, Pentecost, Passover, they don't bring oblations unto the Lord, what's going to happen to them? Right? Let's go back to Isaiah 66.
Isaiah chapter 66 and verse number 23. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord. And they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me. For their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be an abhorring unto all flesh.
So the Lord is going to have those people that didn't want to hearken and didn't want to get into subjection as an example, right? Like when you was younger, you would get a whooping, and your brothers and sisters would look on like, I ain't about to get whooped like that. That's the same thing they're going to do to these other nations. Their carcasses just going to lay there. This is your punishment for not coming up and keeping the feast day. This is because you wanted to keep the 10th month in your own land, right? Now you're going to have to be part of this uncorrupted flesh, right?
Let's go to to add to that, let's go to Ezekiel chapter 45 and 21. Right? All nations will come up to Jerusalem. Right? Ezekiel 45 and 21.
Book of Ezekiel, chapter 45 and verse number 21. In the first month, in the 14th day of the month, ye shall have the Passover, a feast of 7 days. Unleavened bread shall be eaten.
So you read Ezekiel 45, it's speaking about, like the brother said, the world to come. Right, go on.
And upon that day shall the prince prepare for himself and for all the people of the land a bullock for a sin offering.
So you're going to take this bullock and give it to the priests so they can do the offering. Go on.
And 7 days of the feast he shall prepare a burnt offering unto the Lord. 7 bullocks and 7 rams without blemish daily the 7 days. And a kid of the goats daily for a sin offering.
Right, and the other nations, they're going to need an offering, huh? Right, and a sin offering doesn't always mean that you went off. Even in Leviticus, the 12th chapter, a woman after her childbearing has to bring a sin offering. Right, if you take a Nazarite vow, once your vow is broken, you have to do a sin offering. So a sin offering doesn't always mean that you transgressed the law. Sometimes it's just a memorial, right? Go on.
And he shall prepare a meat offering of an ephah for a bullock, and an ephah for a ram, and an hin of oil for an ephah.
So the prince is going to have all of this material to be able to give to these men to offer these up on the feast days in the kingdom. Go on.
In the 7th month.
In the 7th month.
In the 15th day of the month.
What day is that? Feast of Tabernacles. Feast of Tabernacles. Read that again.
In the seventh
So
month,
this links directly with Zechariah 14 and 16. Go on.
in the seventh month, in the 15th day of the month, shall he do the like in the feast of the 7 days.
So another name for the Feast of Tabernacles is the Feast of 7 days. Like in Tobit, another name for Pentecost is the Feast of 7 weeks. Right, go on.
According to the sin offering, according to the burnt offering, and according to the meat offering, and according to the oil.
That's right. Let's go to the book of Exodus 23 and 16. So that shows you that the prince, one of the top men in the kingdom, are going to be able to do these offerings on behalf of the people. Right? So all of the people, instead of them coming up to the priests or coming up to the Levites to give it to this individual, who is going to in turn give it to the priest, and they're going to do the offerings on behalf of the prince, who's really represents the people at that time. Right? So let's bring that up.
Exodus chapter 23 and verse number 16. And the feast of harvest, the first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in thy labors out of the field.
Right?
3 times in the year, all thy males shall appear before the Lord God.
What 3 times in a year do you have to come to Jerusalem?
Passover.
You gotta speak up, man.
Passover.
Passover, just the Passover?
Pentecost. Passover, Tabernacles, the first fruits.
All right, we'll do that, right? Feast of Unleavened Bread,
Yeah, feast of leavened
because the
bread.
Passover is just one day.
Correct.
So you got to come for the whole Feast of Unleavened Bread, right? Feast of Weeks, right? Or you can say the Feast of First Fruits and your Feast of Tabernacles, right? So those are the 3 times in a year. Read verse 16 again.
Exodus 23 and 16. And the feast of harvest.
The Feast of Harvest is what? Your Pentecost, right? Or your Feast of Weeks. It's the harvest, meaning you're gathering in wheat. So you had different harvests throughout the year. The Feast of Weeks is the harvest season, and you gather in wheat. That's why you read parables about what? The wheat and the tares. The wheat and the tares is really a spiritual prophecy pertaining to the law, right? Or the Feast of Weeks, right? Go on. Or the Feast of Harvest.
The first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering,
And the what?
and the feast of ingathering,
Which is what? Your Feast of Tabernacles. So another name for the Feast of Tabernacles is also the Feast of Ingathering, which is what?
which is in the end of the year,
Which is the end of the year. What year is it the end of? The agricultural year. Because we know that the end of the year is the 12th month. But right now it's the 7th month. You understand? So you have something called an agricultural year, and that cycle is different than your civil year. Your civil year starts at the month of Abib, and it ends in the month of Adar. You understand? Or Nisan to Adar. Your agricultural year, it runs from the end of the harvest all the way back up to the end of the harvest again. That's your harvest season. That's why it says the end of the year, even though it's the 7th month. Right? Now, go to the book of Ruth, chapter 1 and 22. Right? And during your feast of ingathering, you're not gathering wheat, because all crops don't, or certain crops, brothers know they only grow at certain times of the year. So during the feast of ingathering, you're mainly gathering olives, and you said what? Yeah, if you have pumpkins, squash, grapes, right? Gourds, those are the things that you gather at the end of the year. Right? Now, let's go to that.
Ruth chapter 1 and verse number 22. So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, which returned out of the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of the barley harvest.
The beginning of the barley harvest is what? The same thing as the beginning of your Feast of First Fruits. Another name for the Feast of First Fruits is the Feast of the Barley Harvest. So that barley came in the beginning of the year. I believe it say that in Joshua, that the floods came during the time of the barley harvest, or the feast year. Or even in the book of Exodus, during the plagues, the Most High speaks about the hail and the mingle of fire coming before the flax and the wheat grew. So that's that first month of the year. Let me get that precept in Exodus. I believe that's the first chapter, if I'm not mistaken. That's not the first chapter. It's locked in. Let me get that real quick. Let's go to is that it? It's locked in. Bear with me. Yeah, but 9 and 22, but we're gonna jump. Actually, it's 9 and 32. Start at you can start at 22, and then we're gonna jump to verse 31.
Exodus chapter 9 and verse number 22. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch forth thine hand toward heaven, that they may be hail in all the land of Egypt, upon man and upon beast, and upon every herb of the field throughout the land of Egypt.
Right, hail mingled with fire. Go on. I mean, you can jump to verse 31.
Verse 31. And the flax and the barley was smitten, for the barley was in the ear, and the flax was bold.
See that? So the barley was in the ear. So the barley's beginning to come up because this is right before what major high holy day? When is this happening? Before what major high holy day is coming?
Pentecost.
No, not Pentecost.
First fruit.
Not first fruits. We in Exodus the 9th chapter. Passover. So Passover is going to be the beginning of that feast of first fruits. Right after that, on that 16th day of the month, that's when you go and you start dealing with the first fruits on the 16th day of the month. Right? So that's why
The next verse too.
Con, you can read on.
Verse 32. But the wheat and the rye were not smitten,
Why?
for they were not grown up.
Because it's not time yet. Because when is the wheat harvest? Around the time of Pentecost. Right? So that would be all the way in the May time. This is during the time of early spring.
Right.
Brothers understanding? So it's more, it's a lot about the scriptures because we are an agricultural people. Right? So we had to know this back in the ancient world. It's not something, I don't know if I just want to know the book of Revelation, the 10th chapter. Right? No, we had to know all of this, man. We was out in the fields.
Right.
It's like, Micah, like today, this was an everyday thing, man. Being out, man. You was in your tabernacle. I tell you in Hebrews, Abraham dwelt in booths, man, with Isaac and Jacob. So you wasn't just in the wilderness for a weekend, man, like a getaway. You was out here, man. You have to know what kind of tree that was, what was poisonous, what wasn't poisonous. We was talking about that the other day, man. At 2 Kings, the 4th chapter, they brought a poisonous gourd, and they said it's death in the pot, man. So they had to know all of that stuff. Okay, it's barley season. They knew the constellations. We were in tune with the earth. Now we can't tell the difference between damn wheat and barley, man.
Right.
Go tell that to Boaz in the ancient world. Look, man, I don't know, is this wheat? Hey, he'll put his hands on you, man. Right? I don't know, should I glean or should I thresh? Right? Hey, they'll look at you sideways, man. You have to know how to thresh, how to glean. All this stuff had to be done because you was out in the field, man. That's how you made your living. You wasn't working at Kohl's, man. Or working at damn Walmart, man. Or 7-Eleven. Yeah, eating seedless fruit, man. Reading the back of labels. You was out there in the field. You got it, King.
So I was saying, like the harvest is like April to like October.
With the entire harvest season, is going to run, really from April till around this time, early March. But the year will be from the 7th month to the 7th month. But the actual vegetation, that's how it's going to grow. So your barley harvest is going to start around the time of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. That's why during the time of Exodus, before the Passover, before the 16th day of the month, it says the barley had not grown up yet. Or the barley was in its ear. So it began, you ever see corn in the ear? And then what's it called?
The husk. The husk.
The husk. And it began to peel and the crown comes out. Right, for lack of better terms. During this time, it's still in the ear. Right? Even dealing with wheat, the same thing. So let's go back to that in Ruth. Read Ruth 1 and 22 again. So now when you read in Ruth, you understand the time frame. When you read Ruth, to get a deeper understanding, you have to know how the harvest season works. Because it's really a foreshadowing of what's going to happen in the end. Right? So let's read that. They came in empty and they left with a harvest. That's physical, that's spiritual. Naomi came in empty, and what happened at the end? She had a son. They gave her a son through Ruth. Right? So bring that up.
Ruth chapter 1 and verse number 22. So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, which returned out of the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of barley harvest.
So when is that again? When's the beginning of barley harvest?
Spring.
Around the time of first fruits. Let's go to Ruth chapter 2 and verse 23.
Ruth chapter 2 and verse number 23. So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz to glean unto the end of barley harvest and of wheat harvest, and dwelt with her mother-in-law.
Read that again.
So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz.
So Ruth was a gleaner, and she followed the reapers. Right? So the reapers are the ones that's gathered. They have a sickle, and they out there cutting down all of the barley. Right? And a gleaner is somebody that goes and picks up the scraps. According to the law, you can go pick up the scraps. Right? Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 24. Because you might have been poor, man. How beautiful is that? A man has a massive field, and he got workers out there. You can just go in the field, man, and just pick up whatever they left behind and eat it. Right? So let's bring that up.
Deuteronomy chapter 24, you just saw that,
19.
in verse number 19. When thou cuttest down thine harvest in thy field, and hast forgotten a sheaf in the field, thou shalt not go again to fetch it. It shall be for the stranger,
Right? That's Ruth.
for the fatherless, and for the widow, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thine hand.
That's why Naomi and Ruth was the stranger, and Naomi was the what? The widow. So they're eating off the harvest of Boaz. Right? Go on. And you can't go back and double. Damn, I forgot to go get that last grape. That last week, I'm gonna go. No, you have to have enough charity to say, I'm gonna leave that for the fatherless. That's what I guarantee a lot of Jacob's going back getting it, man. Lust. Yeah, go get that. They ain't nobody been around. You're supposed to leave it out there, man. Go on. That's like if you got an apple tree and you shake it. You know how people shake the apples? You can't keep shaking it, man. You shake it one time, whatever fall, you get it, you pick it up, whatever's left, hey, it's for the stranger, man. And you can't be shooting people for climbing up the apple tree, man. Outside your porch with a BB gun at 5 in the morning. I know he coming, man. Shooting the squirrels, right? My granddad used to do that, man. He'd be up at 5 in the morning with a damn gun on the porch, killing the beasts of the field, man, for eating the harvest. So let's go on.
Verse 20. When thou beatest thine olive tree, thou shalt not go over the boughs again.
That's what I just said. Go on.
It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow.
So Ruth is picking up the scraps. Go on.
When thou gatherest the grapes of thy vineyard.
That's during the Feast of the Tabernacles. So the Lord is giving you different harvests. So when you gather the grapes, that's during the end of the year. Go on.
Thou shalt not glean it afterward. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow.
And what?
And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in the land of Egypt. Therefore I command thee to do this thing.
Come. So one more time. Go back to Ruth chapter 2 and 23.
Ruth chapter 2 and verse number 23. So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz to glean unto the end of the barley harvest.
So the end of the barley harvest and what?
And of the wheat harvest.
And the wheat harvest, which is around the time of Pentecost. Which is what? When do we keep Pentecost? Around what month?
May.
May, June. Around May or June. So it tells you the time period that she was out there working. Was it 10 years, 20 years? No, man, she was out there from the barley harvest to the wheat harvest. You know what an ancient mind, okay, that's around what? Early March to late May. That's how long she was working. Right, go on.
And dwelt with her mother-in-law.
And dwelt with her mother-in-law. Let's go to the book of Matthew. Right, 13 and 38. Right?
Book of Matthew, chapter 13, and verse number 38. The field is the world.
Now we're not going to read the whole parable of the wheat and the tares. Brothers can read that on their own, but we're just giving you the explanation of it. So let's read that.
The field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one.
Right?
The enemy that sold them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world.
What the Lord say?
The
harvest is the end of the world.
What are we thinking about?
The harvest is the end of the world.
And the what?
And the reapers are the angels.
And the reapers are the angels. So that harvest is likened to the Feast of Harvest, which is your Pentecost, or your Feast of Weeks. But spiritually, it's the end of the year, huh? Right? So your Feast of Tabernacles runs during the end of the year. So in our mind, we're thinking about a harvest too, huh? And we're not talking about corn and wine, huh? Right? We're speaking about, are we going to make it? Are we not going to make it? Are the angels going to destroy us? Or are they going to deliver us in the chariots? Like we keep harping, it's not a getaway, man. You know, and it's beautiful to, be out here, but it's even more beautiful to meditate on the prophecy and meditate on the law and all of the different characteristics of this feast day, outside of just eating and drinking and enjoying, the brotherhood, huh? Right?
Revelation 14 and 14.
Revelation chapter 14 and verse number 14. And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle.
Right?
And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, thrust in thy sickle and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe.
Right? So all the elect have been sealed. Right? It's time for everybody to be given their judgment, their proper judgment.
Right.
Right? Some are going to be given everlasting life, crowns, white robes. Some are going to be getting missile food.
Right.
Right? You keep on here.
Verse 16. And he that sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. And another angel came out of the temple which is in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the altar, which had power over fire, and cried with a loud voice unto him that had the sharp sickle, saying, thrust in thy sharp sickle, and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe.
And who are the grapes of the earth? Nope.
No. The other nations, because they're going to get smashed.
nations are
They're
the
going to get smashed.
They're going to get smashed. Right.
Right, that's the next verse.
Verse 19. And the angel thrust in his sickle into the earth, and gathered the vine of the earth, and cast it into the great winepress of the wrath of God.
Right, so the nations are going to be getting destroyed while the elect are getting the understanding, the knowledge, right? Going through everything, man. Passing through the rod. It's going to be beautiful, man. That's a just balance right there, right? The sun and the moon are going to be shining on the elect while the nations are getting poured out with indignation and wrath, right? And it's the last verse right here.
Verse 20. And the winepress was trodden without the city, and blood came out of the winepress, even unto the horses' bridles, by the space of 1,600 furlongs.
It's a lot of death, man. It's a massive amount of death, man. And that's the great harvest that's coming into the earth, man. Right? So we at the end of the harvest now, physically, right? But spiritually, we at the beginning of the harvest, man. Right? You're going to start seeing more judgment pouring out, man. Right? We were just talking about this up there, World War III, man. World War III is something that's just going to pop up overnight. It's brewing up, man. We're seeing that harvest getting full. The wheat is all the way up here. The barley's all the way up here. We're just waiting for that thrusting to come through.
Real piece of time. Let's go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 7 and 6, and I'm gonna get one more after that. Just to show you one more, just to show you a precept to show that the olives, grapes, gourds, those things were gathered during the Feast of Tabernacles.
Isaiah chapter 7 and verse
17 and 6.
Isaiah chapter 17 and verse number 6. yet gleaning grapes shall be left in it, as the shaking of an olive tree. 2 or 3 berries in the top of the uttermost bow, 4 or 5 in the most fruitful branches thereof, saith the Lord God of Israel.
Now, you wouldn't know that unless you know the law. When you read, what does that mean? The shaking of the... We're speaking about what we read in Deuteronomy 24. So when the Most High sweep through with the destruction, only a remnant is going to be left. And that's speaking really about Israel. Now that could apply to the remnant of the other nations who survived the destruction, right? But it's really speaking about us as a people. Now, let's go to Jeremiah chapter 49 and verse 7.
Jeremiah chapter 49 and verse number 7. Concerning Edom, thus saith the Lord of hosts, is wisdom no more in Teman? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? Flee ye, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitants of Dedan.
So this is speaking about the Edomites. Go on.
For I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him.
I will do what?
I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him.
This is the Most High. Right, go on.
The time that I will visit him.
Right?
If grape gatherers come to thee, would they not leave some gleaning grapes?
Right, a normal man, he's going to leave grapes because that's according to what? The law. For your people. But what is the Most High going to do? Go on.
If thieves by night, they will destroy till they have enough.
Right?
But I have made Esau bare.
What the Lord say?
But
I have made Esau bare.
No, there's going to be a remnant of grapes left.
But I have
will
made
eat
Esau
Esau bare.
And the Most High said, y'all know my law. Right? What I told you. But I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I ain't going to leave no grapes, man. I'm going back. I'm going to glean. I'm going to shake. And all of the grapes are going into the wine press, man. The Most High said, I have made Esau bare. So, and that's going to be, and the grapes are gathered chiefly at the end of the harvest year, man. So that links directly up with Revelation, the 14th chapter, man. The Lord said, well, not the normal man will leave some grapes, man. Okay, I want to keep this one or keep that one out. No, the Lord said they're all going to be extinct. I have made Esau bare. I'm going to go above and beyond what I have in the law and use it for my advantage to destroy the people that hate me, man. You know, you got it, King.
You can get Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 5. Right, because like the brother was saying, man, Esau is a thief, man. He don't keep the law. He contrary to righteousness.
Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 5. If thieves came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough?
Right, have they not have stolen till they had enough, man? They steal everything. Read on.
If the great gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes?
And Esau is not keeping the law. It's just telling you over and over in parabolical ways how Esau is going to continue to rape, rob, and murder the earth, man. With all manner of stealing on a physical level and taking our nationality from us, man. And with grapes on a spiritual level. So he'll even take us and snatch us all up, man, and beat us down to nothing. Right, let me get the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 9 and verse number 20, real fast.
2nd Esdras, chapter 9 and verse number 20. So I considered the world, and behold, there was peril because of the devices that were come into it. And I saw and spared it greatly, and have kept me a grape of the cluster, and a plant of a great people.
Right, Israel, read on.
Let the multitude perish then, which was born in vain. Let my grape be kept, and my plant, for with great labor have I made it perfect.
And just like on the physical level, brothers labor, they put down the seeds, they break down the ground. The Most High is doing that to us, man. We the grapes. He give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and we're supposed to be growing into the end of the world. And the brothers aren't growing in this thing spiritually, where the Most High imputing into you water, you understand, and grow you, then you're going to be destroyed, and you're going to suffer the death of the wicked. Read on.
Nevertheless, if thou will cease.
So like you can read 22 again.
Come on, verse 22. Let the multitude perish then, which was born in vain, and let my grape be kept, and my plant, For with great labor have I made it perfect.
Right, and the Most High got a great cluster of people, man. Right? The Israelites are innumerable. But the Most High is only coming back for that small remnant, which is that small grape, and going to destroy all the others. You got it.
Come on. Let's go to the book of Joel, the 3rd chapter. Right? Joel chapter 3 and verse 12.
Select. Joel chapter 3 and verse number 12. Let the heathen be wakened.
What the Lord say?
Let the heathen be wakened.
That's what's happening with North Korea. They're flying missiles, we just talking about it, over Japan, man. Right now. Vladimir Putin, man. And his general, brother saw his new general, his nickname,
Armageddon.
General Armageddon.
Armageddon.
He didn't come up with that on his own, man. The Most High gave him that name. I'm going to give you guys an Edomite, and I'm going to call him General Armageddon. That's mockery against Esau, man. So you got General Armageddon, he's on the scene. He was saved for the last days, man. Right. He wasn't the general for World War I, World War II. The Most High saved that man for the last days, man. And they say he plays no games. He's going to kill civilians, man, and destroy infrastructure. And he's against all of the brothers know about the Geneva Act and different war crimes that you can't do, and poison gas and flamethrowers and all types of killing civilians. He doesn't give a damn about that, man. He's going to do what he wants to do because he's General Armageddon, man. Right, and we're hoping he pushed the button. We're hoping he's the one that's going to push the button. Unstable. You got something?
I say, like, kind of so-called laws of war.
Right, the so-called laws of war. There's no laws of war in World War III, man. That's the war to end all wars. Right? Let's go to, let's read on, King, in Joel 3.
Come. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about.
Jehoshaphat is Yahweh Shaphat in the Hebrew. It means Yahweh, of course, is the name of the Lord. Shaphat is judgment or decision. Right? So that's what Jehoshaphat means. It's the location on the earth where the Most High is going to make the final decision on destroying the wicked. Right? Go on.
Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe.
There you go, that word harvest again. Brothers know what a sickle is, right? Short, curved, threshing instrument, or cutting down. You say what?
Like the Grim Reaper.
Like the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper has a sight, a long sight. It's the same thing. You could, I looked up videos, man. If you don't know what it is, look it up, man. What is threshing? Reaping, right? You'll see the guy go out there with the damn sight, and he's just cutting down the crops, man. You can't just read, I don't know what that means, gleaning. Whatever. It's not Revelation chapter 19. It doesn't matter. Has nothing to do with fringes. Let's just move on. The Bible's more than fringes, man.
Right.
Got my green fringes, gold fringes, my Sabbath day fringes, my visible fringes, shake them and they appear fringes. It's more than that, man. Yeah. It's more than that, man. You gotta get, the Lord said, real quick, Sirach 5 and 15, quick precept. Right, one of my favorite precepts in the Apocrypha. Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and 15. You should challenge yourself, man. And if there's a place in the Bible, you don't know what it is, do what?
Look it up.
Search it out. Look it up. You're reading about Bethany. I don't know. Look it up, right? See where it is, man. Right? If there's a mountain, look it up. If there's a word in the Hebrew, look it up. Right? That's your job as a king. Like the brother said, to search out a matter. Proverbs 25 and 2. So bring that up.
Sirach chapter 5 and verse 15. Be not ignorant of anything in a great matter or a small.
See that? Right? Ignorant means what? You don't be the brother that just doesn't know. Right? I don't know. It's too small of a matter. I only deal with big matters. Right? I don't deal with small. You'll be a fool, man. Right? I only deal with small matters. I don't deal with big matters. Right? So you want to kind of get into it, man. How do you not only deal with big matters? That means if there's a situation in your household and it blows up, you don't deal with it. Only deal with small things.
My favorite precept is Acts 17 and 30.
Yeah, Acts 17 and 30, man. And Numbers 15. Yeah, Numbers 15 and 38, man. Or Sirach 19 and 24. A little understanding. Let's say little that I'm not going to quote it verbatim, but it speaks about a man that has little understanding is better than a man that has much understanding and transgressing, right? You can't just wear a t-shirt and wear that all day, man. Right? You want to get into this thing, right? The Bible speaks about living waters that rise in Ezekiel 47. From the ankles to the knees, to the waist, to waters that you can swim in, that you can't pass over, man. So you want to be diving in the water. Stop putting your big toe in the water and taking it. Ooh, it's cold. While the hairs of your flesh stands up, man, and you go back inside, man. Dive into the waters, man. Get into the. You don't force yourself, right? But you gradually work your way into the deep end, right? Come.
You can get the book of Isaiah, chapter 28 and verse 23. Baba Gashar.
Yeah, real quick, because if you force yourself, you're gonna drown. I've almost drowned about 4 times, right? In the world, trying to just go into the deep end, right? See that?
The book of Isaiah, chapter 28 and verse number 23. Give ye ear and hear my voice. Hearken and hear my speech. Doth the plowman plow all day to sow?
Right, and this is literally a parable jumping into doing the work, man. It's twofold, double to that which is, but nevertheless, the Most High is with a man that works and is with husbandry. And every man should know how to do that. Read on.
Doth he open and break the clods of his ground?
Right, so you know how you have like a donkey, an ass, whatever the case may be, especially in slavery, they'll break the clouds of the ground and they'll hit the donkey and they'll open up the ground so they can place the seeds in it. Read on.
When he hath made plain the face thereof, doth he not cast abroad the fitches?
Right, meaning the seeds, and its place thereof, meaning it's opened up.
And scattered the cumin, and cast it in the principal wheat,
And cast it in the principal wheat.
and the appointed barley, and the rye in their place?
Right?
For his God doth instruct him.
And that's spiritual, man. Because when we're sitting up in there, we're plowing and we're sowing, the Most High is instructing us. He's showing which way to go. You don't want to plow or throw in a wheat, and it's not time to, man. The Most High is supposed to direct you and show you in the principal season at the appointed time. Read on.
For his God
And
doth...
so like it goes into being too hasty, too. You don't want to be the winter time and you taking a shovel, you'll be a damn fool, man. You got to let the Most High show you the exact season and things you should be moving in. Read on.
For his God doth instruct him to discretion, and doth teach him.
Right, meaning with judgment. Read on.
For the fitches are not threshed with threshing instrument,
And you have many threshing instruments like we were going into, like a sickle, a sheaf, and you would thresh that thing through. Read on.
neither is a cartwheel turned upon the cumin, but the fitches are beaten but the fitches are beaten out with a staff, and the cumin with a rod.
And that just goes to show you it's a lot of work to get a reward of your harvest. It's a lot of sowing, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of sweating, man. It's a lot of sowing and putting those things in and beating and threshing for a reward. Read on.
Verse 28.
Yeah, quick point. Can you read that part again? Just throw this up. For the
fitches.
yeah.
But the fitches,
No, the part before that. Salaki.
neither is a cartwheel turned about upon the cumin.
So like the brother said, even when you're dealing with that, you have tools that are used to make sure you're not overworking or overbeating the crops that you're planting. Right? So you don't use a chainsaw on just a 2x4. Right? Is that a good analogy? Or you don't use I'll use something better. A hammer for a thumbtack. Right? A thumbtack is used for its proper purpose for your hand. You don't take a hammer to beat in a thumbtack. Right? Go on.
But the fitches are beaten out with a staff,
Right?
and the cumin with a rod.
So the Most High gave you the necessary tools to be able to build up and to be able to plant and to allow things to grow. If you take the wrong tools, like the brother said, even in the wrong season, it's going to be unprofitable regardless of the seeds that you're planting. You know, so that's another point. And that's how the Most High deal with us. The Most High don't over-discipline us. He kind of give us exactly what we need for us to grow. Just want to make that point too.
And I want to hold that. I want to get this quick precept of Proverbs 24 and 27. Proverbs 24 and 27.
Book of Proverbs, chapter 24, and verse number 27. Prepare thy work without, and make it fit for thyself in the field, and afterwards build thine house.
Right. Like you got to know which tools you got to use. You understand? For whatever house or building a situation or foundation you land. You take the wrong tools, you could bust your damn door in, huh? Right? Your whole roof could decay in. just because you didn't use discretion on what you should be using at that proper time. Right? You can go back to it, King. Isaiah chapter 28 and verse 27.
Isaiah chapter 28 and verse number 27. For the fitches are not threshed with a threshing instrument, neither is a cartwheel turned about upon the cumin, but the fitches are beaten with a staff and the cumin with a rod.
Right?
Bread corn is bruised, because he will not ever be threshing it.
Right? It's so the Most High to give the increase. You could be in the field all day just beating that damn seed in the ground, man, to a split in half. You sitting up there beating a damn underground tunnel. Read that again.
Bread corn is bruised, because he will not ever be threshing it.
And whatever you're doing, you have to make sure the Most High is with you what you're doing. Because you could be working on a matter, sweating, putting all of this work in, and the Most High told you not to go that way. Or not to go it and do it in this season. Read on.
Nor break it with the wheel of his cart, nor bruise it with his horsemen.
And you can have all the supplies you need to get a reward or something that you want to yield an increase, but the Most High shut it down. Read on.
This also cometh from the Lord of hosts, which is wonderful in counsel
And what?
and excellent in working.
And what?
And excellent in work.
And the Most High is excellent in working. The Most High has the water come down on the spiritual level and physical, the fruit which is man, physical and spiritual, and yield forth the increase. With this sheaf, you understand, to gather up the harvest.
Let's go back to Joel chapter 3. Joel 3 and verse, read 13 again.
Joel chapter 3 and verse number 13. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow,
Right.
for their wickedness is great.
Right?
Multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision.
Right?
The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining.
That's speaking about what? What are the sun and the moon and the stars not shining?
Wisdom, knowledge, and understanding
There you go. Of who?
of the other nations.
Of the other nations. Right? There's no scientist can save them, no president, no stimulus package, no wartime act, no space force. All of that is going to be shut down in those days, man.
Quick precept.
Come.
All right, this is a quick precept on that. This is Isaiah chapter 60 and verse 1. Arise, shine forth, thy light is come, and thy glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. For, behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But the Lord shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee.
Come. Another quick one. Real quick. Revelation chapter 8 and I believe 12. Right? Revelation chapter 8 and 12.
Revelation chapter 8 and verse number 12. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise.
That's a dark sand. Saying the same thing. It's not talking about the sun. I don't know if brothers ever saw that movie Time Machine. Old movie with Tom Cruise. I think it was Tom Cruise in that movie. And he went back in time. He actually went into the future. And they showed in the future that the earth was destroyed. And he looked up at the moon, and the moon was broken in half, right? It was like a third part of the moon. And now that I think about it, they probably got that from the Bible, right? But it's not speaking about the actual third part of the moon or the third part of the sun. Third just means a complete amount, right? So the complete amount of light, which is the wisdom of this world, is going to be shut down as World War III begins to escalate, the bombs drop, and that leads to the time of Yahweh Shah. So it's all saying the same thing.
Like in cartoons, when somebody get bumped in the head, what do they see? They see the stars. Right? The stars get knocked out of them. That's that knowledge and understanding, man. They dumb now. Right?
Right. Joel chapter 3 and verse 16.
Joel chapter 3 and verse 16. The Lord shall roar out of Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. But the Lord will be the hope of his people, and the strength of the children of Israel.
And the what?
And the strength of the children of Israel.
Read.
So shall ye know that I am Yahweh, your God, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy,
What the Lord say?
Then shall Jerusalem be holy.
Right?
and there shall no strangers pass through her anymore.
And with that, Kwam Yashala.
Kwam Yashala.
Kwam Yashala.
Kwam Yashala.
Kwam Yashala.
Hold your shut up.